Thanks for tuning in to Finance News. I'm Melissa Darmohan. Gold explorer Stawell Minerals is focused on the resource-rich region of Stawell in central Victoria. The company has a highly prospective 550 square kilometres of tenements in the famous Stawell gold mining region that has seen over 5 million ounces of gold mined. Today we welcome back the Chief Executive Officer for Stawell Minerals, Russell Krause. Russell, nice to see you online today.
Good morning, Mel. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you and your viewers.
It's great to have you back. Recently, our viewers were first introduced to Stawell Minerals, where you gave a terrific overview of the company and its prospects. Since then, the company has been very active with what appears to be some good results. Can you take us through the results from Glenorchy and Greedy?
Yes, I can. What we've actually been doing is exploring the Stawell area to the north of the existing Stawell gold mine. As we travel further north, there's a sedimentary cover which covers that area, and it makes it lovely farming land, but it's no outcropping. So as a consequence, the area has been largely underexplored. So we've put together a fairly big geophysics and geochemistry campaign, flown a lot of gravity work, and done a lot of basic geology and science behind our exploration program. And then what we've done is we've actually commenced drilling. So we've identified a number of targets, basically 20 up and down that corridor, and we're starting to test those individual targets. Glenorchy and Greedy are two of the first ones that we've tested. We're using an air core rig, which is a relatively light rig, small environmental footprint. And we're just drilling vertical holes down to the contact. So through the cover, through that sedimentary layer, which is barren as far as the gold's concerned, and then testing those basalt domes that we've identified underneath that cover. So far at both Greedy and Glenorchy, what we've what we've discovered with the grades that have come back has been gold intercepts. So we're quite encouraged as to what we're actually getting. Whilst those grades are not overly high at this point in time, what they are is indicating that the mineralisation, which we believe continues from Stawell all the way up the corridor, is actually there. So we're very encouraged by what we're seeing so far. And our intention will be to go back to those targets and retest them with a larger drill rig after we've done a little bit more RC work.
How about the results from Lubeck Tip?
Lubeck Tip is probably one of the more exciting areas that we've actually discovered now. We're only very early on into that program, but what we've actually discovered is that we've got a continuous sort of mineralisation for about 1.5 kilometres of strike so far. So that in itself indicates that if that's mineralised similar to the way the Stawell Magdala Dome is mineralised, it's potentially a very large deposit. So whilst this is very early days, and we've actually got some nice broad intercepts of gold, we are hopeful that this will hold together and develop into a fairly significant project. So we're very excited about Lubeck Tip.
That's great to hear. So it does sound like you are happy with the grades you're getting from these early drill sites. Do you have any other colour that you can provide?
Yes, I think that the real thing is that the broadness of the intercepts is the most important thing for us. There's been quite a number of mines discovered with very narrow, small and relatively low-grade intercepts, a few metres wide, and might only be, 1 gram a tonne, but that's led on to the development into a major sort of structure, so that they've sort of found the start of it or the lead and continued on developing and exploring. Lubeck Tip, we've probably encountered 5 intercepts broader than between 5 and 15 metres, continuous gold bearing. And whilst the grade, as I say, is around about 1.5 grams, what it's indicating to us is that we're actually onto a very large structure, which is exactly what we're trying to find. Our main objective is to try and find a Stawell-like structure, which is a multi-million ounce deposit. And Lubeck is indicating that the potential is there for that. Now, it's difficult for us to get too excited at this stage because it's very early on in the piece. That's why I'm trying to be a little bit conservative about what I'm saying, but we are encouraged.
So when do you determine if the site is able or already be mined? So in other words, if you find a strong site, do you abandon the other testing and start mining, or do you run through the site program before determining where the mining will begin?
No, we certainly don't abandon anything. What our intention is we've identified a number of major targets up and down the corridor, that Stawell corridor, and I suppose it's important to say we are focused purely on that corridor. That is our objective. So we've identified 20 major targets, and we've tested to this point in time, and only lightly tested, 8 of those targets. There's only 2 of them that at this point we've decided that we don't need to put any further work into, and the other 6 we intend to continue to develop. One in particular, Lubeck, is really looking very, very promising. So our objective will be to continue to test all of those targets and then develop them as we go. And we've got the budget to do it, so we intend to spend the money as we've already outlined.
Given what we've discussed so far, I can see why you and the team are feeling quite encouraged. What should our viewers and potential investors be looking for in the drilling results moving forward?
I guess it's probably the narrative around what we say with these results, because what we're trying to do is, as I say, find those multi-million ounce deposits and the mirror image of the Stawell gold mine. The structure, the geological setting indicates that there's a number of those potentially hosted up and down that corridor. So what we're trying to do is, what we'll try and identify is those areas that are potential to host that sort of style of deposit. And we will put the narrative around those results to indicate exactly what we believe we're discovering. So what investors should be looking for from us is those big structures, and we will report those as we uncover them. Fingers crossed.
I know that you have 2 rigs on site. However, from reading recent updates from other miners, weather conditions and even labour shortages have been a headwind. What are the risks that we need to be aware of?
I think that the biggest risk for us is really the weather conditions. Obviously, we're on farmland and we're coming into the Victorian winter, which is typically wet. As a consequence, on that farmland, I'm not going to be able to move heavy equipment across fields without causing major damage. So we'll simply readjust our drilling program, move back to some of the higher areas closer to Stawell itself, and we'll continue our program and test other targets there. So we'll continue on regardless of weather conditions by and large. So we've attempted to more or less de-risk our portfolio, and having 550 square kilometres of land, it gives us quite a number of options as to where we go. And having those multiple targets, and some of which are closer to Stawell, gives us that opportunity to de-risk the program as far as that weather, etc. is concerned.
Okay, how about labour shortages? Is that a concern for North Stawell?
The biggest difficulty we have, obviously, has been we're on a mining site, and COVID. That's caused quite a number of people, particularly with the previous rules, staying away and isolation and all that sort of thing. So that has presented some difficulties. What it has meant is that we've actually had to employ a larger than what's required field crew in order to simply cover those opportunities. So mechanical failures probably been more of a delay than actually labour shortages. And unfortunately, where you've got equipment, machinery moving, you do get that from time to time. But other than that, we're pretty happy with the way things have been going.
Last question from me. Some of our viewers may not be aware that the Stawell gold mine next door has been quite successful. However, they are a private company and their results aren't publicly available, but they are a significant investor in the company. What does this mean for North Stawell Minerals?
That's a very good question. The association with the Stawell gold mine is probably critical to the success of North Stawell Minerals. We are purely, if you like, perhaps I'll just explain the ownership structure a little bit more first. Stawell Gold Mines is owned by a private equity group managed by Arate Capital Partners. Arate Capital Partners CEO is Mr. Campbell Olson, and chairman is Hugh Morgan, the Hugh Morgan of Western mining fame. So he's a very famous individual in gold mining in Australia. That group, that same private equity group, has a 66% interest in North Stawell Minerals. So effectively, even though we're the listed public face of that group, we are the exploration arm of Stawell Gold Mines. We sit at the Stawell Gold Mine site. We have full access to all of the data at Stawell Gold Mine. So I have, and our team has, full access to their geology. We have access to going underground and actually have the benefit of being able to look at the exact sort of ore bodies that we are trying to develop. And the mine's an existing mine processing right now. So what that means is that there's a plant, gold plant, sitting right outside my office here, operating right now as we speak. So if we're successful in finding a major deposit, we will not have to develop the infrastructure other than the appropriate government permitting to actually start mining. And then we've got a plant here already that we can actually form a process agreement with, or an offtake agreement, if you like, or a toll treatment arrangement, something along those lines with Stawell Gold Mines, and process that. So what that means is that we can fast track our development probably more quickly than any other junior explorer. So that's a fairly significant advantage, having that infrastructure and people around us. And it's like having a big brother. All the gear's there, the lab's there, everything else is there.
There you go, Russell Krause. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I look forward to the next update.
Thank you very much, Mel.